Hi everybody, it's Julie, Kansas City girl in the Colorado world. This is Flosstube number 87. Today is Sunday, September 26th, and I have so much to show you. It's been about 3 weeks since my last video, so I have a lot. I have finished so many things, and I had a bunch of stuff that I had finished anywhere from like 6 months ago to a year ago that I finally like fully finished. So there is a lot to show you. I also have a new phone, so shouldn't have 4 splices to this video. Okay, so previous finishes. Let's start with previous finishes. I have a bunch of those too. So about a year ago, I finished Stacy Nash Cherry Hollow Farm. This is, I believe you can get this as a PDF on her Etsy site. It was hard to get for a while because it came as a kit for, I don't know if it was like for Market or Galleria or something, but one year she had released this as a kit, and it wasn't like terribly easy to track down, but I think now you can go get it really easily. It calls for like 5 colors of floss. So yeah, if it's something you've had your eye on, I think you can get it on her Etsy site. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. So anyway, this was stitched on like a 36 count linen. And what was nice about that was it fit perfectly in an 8x10 frame when I did that on the called for linen that came in the kit. So yeah, there's that. I love the way this finish came out. It's a little close like on the framing, but I don't mind. That border was tricky, not gonna lie. My border did not match when it was all said and done. And that house took forever, but it looks great. It looks great. I love that. And then I had some seasonal things I stitched. So this next one is from Hello from Liz Matthews, and this is called Hocus Pocus, and this was actually a really quick stitch, but it's nice because it's kind of it's a big finish, but it's fast to stitch. I think I stitched this on 36 count. Picture this plus. If I had to guess, I'd say it's Heritage, but I don't know. I don't know that for sure. And I stitched this with one of the DMC color variations. It's like it goes from brown to black to gray, which I don't know if you can really see that on your end, but definitely there is some gray in there too. But overall, it just gives kind of like a dark brown effect. So yeah, stitched up really fast. This is just a frame I had in my collection when I'm at like the thrift store or even like Marshall's, TJ Maxx, places like that, Michael's, and I see like clearance cheapo frames, I will grab those and in hopes of someday being able to use them. And I was able to use this one. So 1 year ago, Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. It was September 22nd or 23rd. I couldn't say for sure. And the news hit me pretty hard. And I was stitching that evening and this idea came to me. So the next morning I got up and I charted it up and I stitched it and then finished it. And it was like a 1-day like project. And so really quick stitch. It was quick for me to design and finish as well. And it's called 9 and it says when there are 9, which is a quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg. During an interview, she was asked about the balance of female and male justices on the Supreme Court. And the question was something along the lines of like, when will it be enough? Like, how many women need to be on the court before it's fair, before it's enough? I'm sure like what they were getting at was like, it should be about half and half. But Ruth said, when there are 9. And the interviewer was kind of like, what really? 9 women? Like, that seems a little out there. And she's like, well, there's been 9 men forever. No one had a problem with that. So I always love that quote from her. So I charted when there are 9, and then this is a nod to her favorite Jabbit, which is her collar that she would wear during her when the Supreme Court justices would give their opinions. And so yeah, there was that, and I just finished it as a flat fold. And then I used this jade green trim, was inspired by her favorite pair of jade earrings. And I used the white is actually sparkly. I have no idea if you guys can see that, but it's a sparkly white. So yeah, that was a quick stitch, and a lot of people have stitched that, and I love seeing that. And oh, I didn't even say, like, that's Hemlock and Rye Stitchery. That is what I design under. I think I told you guys I designed it, but Hemlock and Rye Stitchery. I will link that down below if anybody's interested in that pattern or the next pattern I'm going to show. You can go to my Gumroad page, which I will link below, so you can click on that if you like. And my patterns are pay what you want. You just enter a price. You can enter 0, or you can enter any amount you desire. So then I stitched my fall, autumn, Halloween houses. So in my seasonal trio house series, these are my favorite. I'm just gonna say it. They're my favorite. I did Samhain and Salem. There's also on the chart an alternate where you can do, it can say Halloween in Salem. But these are houses that actually exist in Salem, Massachusetts, that I was inspired by, old colonial houses. This red one is right across from the cemetery. So a lot of people, well, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but a couple of people messaged me and they were like, I think I know that house. And I thought, yeah, you probably do. And one of the traditions in New England in the fall, but especially in Salem, is that people put these little pumpkins on top of their doors. So I tried to do that here. They have these like ledges above their doors, and they just line them up with little pumpkins. And I've never seen that, like, growing up in the Kansas City area or here in Colorado. I haven't seen that as a thing, but apparently it's definitely a thing in Salem and probably in a lot of parts of Massachusetts and New England. So lots of little pumpkins in there. This is stitched on 32 count Fortnite fabric, and the color is deep fried. I loved this fabric, and I loved stitching these. So they are my favorites. If you would like to stitch these, you can get them at my Gumroad, pay what you want. And you don't have to stitch all 3. A lot of my houses, or all the rest of my houses, I have stitched as individual houses. But I had this vision with the fencing, and I wanted to do them all in a row. So those are my previous finishes. So then we are not done. I have a lot more finishes, fully finished objects. So I now will show you things that I stitched many months ago, but finally finished. So these were not recent stitching finishes, but they have been sitting in my craft room, just waiting for somebody to come and polish them up. So this one is the Primitive Hair Lizzie Borden, which you can get on her Etsy as a PDF. I used the called for DMC. I dyed this fabric myself. I think it's a 30 count casual linen, and I just experimented, and it was many years ago, but I'm really happy with how the linen turned out. And then it was a whip forever, and I finally was like, I just need to finish this. There's not that much left. So I finished this last fall, but it was like, I think it must have been like November. It was after spooky season, and I kind of just set it aside. Like I wasn't in a hurry to fully finish it. This was from the Target Dollar Days spot. It was $3. It was a Christmas, it was like to display like Christmas cards maybe. It was a little thing I found in the Dollar Days spot at Target. $3. And it's perfect. And then this is just a black chenille trim around there. So I'm actually very happy with how this turned out, and I'm really, really happy to finally have this finished. But that's not all. I also finished the Witchy Stitcher Ouija board. Now she has several Ouija board. I think she has 3, if not 4 designs. And this is just like the classic one. And then she has one that says Happy Halloween. And then she has one that says Hail Satan, which is a nod to the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Anyway, I stitched the classic Ouija board. This is on 28 count Monaco that I dyed myself. Again, dyed it forever ago. Don't even remember what I did. I love the way it turned out. I wish I knew how to recreate that. But yeah, this is just like 2 colors, just DMC 310 and Blanc. I kind of wish I'd used a glow in the dark white, especially on the moon, but that's okay. Maybe next time. And it just fit perfectly in this cheapy little frame from Michaels. So I think I'll stitch the other ones on 28 count Monaco so that they'll all be the same size and they can all be framed this way. But I'm very happy to finally have this finished. It looks really good. And then I am very excited about this finish as well. So this is a pattern from Marissa. She is Mkissa, M-K-I-S-S-A, Mkissa Creations on Etsy and on Instagram. And she also does Flosstube a little. She's not like super, what's the word? Like she's a little sporadic with, with how often she films Flosstube. But she is on Flosstube too. So anyway, last fall, she came out with this pattern, and it was a super quick stitch, but I just, again, got it done like a little late in the season and just didn't get around to finishing it. And I knew how I wanted to finish it like the whole time. I knew. And so I finally did it. So this was a decor from Michaels. And I hung the stitching off of it. So I think that's all in frame. There's that. And here's the stitching. This is, I think it's a 32 count. I'm pretty sure Marissa said if you do it on 32 count, it fits in like a 5x7 frame. But obviously I didn't put it in a frame. So I just mounted it. On the back, I just have this fun witchy fabric. So cute. It was really fun to stitch, really fast to stitch too. And I just love how this turned out, and I cannot wait to put it up. Okay, so then, whew, I'm like flustered, not flustered, I'm hot. So then I had some finishes, present day finishes, and I went ahead and fully finished some of them. One of them I did not fully finish, but the other ones I did. So I finished a couple of things. Stitching Book Club Frankenstein. This was last fall 2020. This was the pattern. And I kept up with the stitch along. Her stitch alongs aren't generally hard to keep up with because they tend to be pretty small. I think she's had a couple good size ones, but a lot of them have been pretty small. And so Frankenstein was easy to keep up with. But when the very last section came out, which was the border, I was like, oh, like that's pretty. I like that, but I want to do something different. I really wanted a quote from the novel in the frame. I had, like when the pattern first came out, that's what I envisioned and what I thought she was going to do, because the very first release was an empty frame. And from the start, I was like, oh, there's going to be something like around the frame. And that ended up not being the case. But I couldn't like let that idea go. So the frame she charted was very nice, but I just really wanted a quote from the book in the frame. So this sat for like 9 or 10 months while I didn't sit down and chart something out. And then I finally was like, okay, this is so close to a finish. Like, I just need to do it. So I found some quotes from the novel I liked. I figured out what would fit. And I finished it finally. And it took like no time at all to finish it once I finally did that. So here is mine. It is on 40 count. Picture this plus murky. And I used some random, mostly color and cotton floss and a couple of like limited edition Gentle Arts. So I had all of the inside stitched, and I had the entire frame stitched, but not filled in. I was so optimistic. I even stitched the 2020 right here. So her charted frame is this like triangle pattern. She just had it going all the way around. So I kept it on the sides, but on the top, I did like a backstitch quote. So it says, "There is something at work in my soul, which I do not understand." So that's what I like. I had a couple of options, but that's what fit the best in there. And I just did this on like a simple, I was going to make like a full on like stand up flat fold, but I got kind of lazy. So I just didn't make it a stand up flat fold. It's mounted on, so I used 3 pieces of mat board instead of 5. And then I just made a little hanger. But yeah, turned out pretty good. I'm really happy with that, actually. I'm not going to stress too much about that it says 2020. I did the bulk of the stitching in 2020. I just didn't do all of it in 2020. So then I was like, okay, like, let me grab some stuff that I can finish quick. So I've had this as a whip for about a year. And it's been like, I kept thinking it would be like a great car project because it has a lot of fill-in. But the truth was, like, the fabric was really weird and I couldn't see it in the car. So I finally was like, okay, just don't make this a car project. Sit down in normal light and finish it. And I did. So this is a beat up copy of Wild Violet cross stitch cauldron thread organizer pillow, which was from the fall issue of Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher, I believe last year. I think it was 2020. And she probably has it now on her own like design website. But if you have the magazine, it's in there. So, oh, sorry, I was a little out of frame there. So I did not use all the called for colors. I used a couple of them, but mostly I just like grabbed stuff from Stash that looked like similar. And I totally changed the fabric. And this was like I think it's a Fiberlicious 32 count from a Stitchy box from like years ago. And it's a beautiful fabric, and it's perfectly, like, it's easy enough to see in like a normal light, but in the car with really bright sunlight, it's actually like really, 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 really hard to see. So that's why I kept getting hung up on it. But I finally finished it. And let me tell you, this cauldron has a lot of stitches, like thousands of stitches, but it is, once you get the outline, it is just fill-in. So that's why I kept thinking it would be good in the car as a fill-in, but that was not accurate. This is, you can get these rings from Abby at Top Knot Stitcher. She has those available, or she did last time I looked. I found this fabric at my crafty thrift store. And I tried a new technique for the trim, and I'm really, really, really excited about this. So, my friend Diana, it is Kismet on Instagram and Flosstube. and she had told me she had finished something. She'd finished like an ornament a year ago, and she had told me about the trim, how she did the trim, and she actually used recycled silk from saris. And I think she said she got hers on Etsy. And I was at, I was in Western Colorado on the Western Slope, which is like a whole different planet from where I live in Boulder, Colorado. Anyway, it's lovely, but it's just a completely different vibe over there. So anyway, I was over there and there was a little yarn shop. And when I say little yarn shop, I mean little, little bitty yarn shop, super cute. It's called Spun, S-P-U-N, I believe. But anyway, they had the recycled silk sari ribbon. So this is how it came. Like, this is how I got it. So it's actually intended for like knitting. It's supposed to be like a bulky, like wabi-sabi kind of way you can knit. You can like knit this in with your yarn, or you can just use the ribbon. But Diana used it as a trim, and I thought that was brilliant. So I bought a couple of colors, and then I twisted 2 strands together and then just tacked it down. So it's a little bit, like it's got a little bit of a rough look, but I think that looks really cool. But the sari, like it frays a little bit because it's silk. So it's not like a perfect, I don't know how to describe it. Like it's a little fuzzy, it's a little frayed, a little worn. And I think that's pretty cool. I like it a lot. So I'm really happy with that. And so I was finishing stuff with that trim today, and it was awesome. So I finished this, and then I finished this next project with some silk sari ribbon. So if you're interested, you know, I'm sure you can find that at most yarn shops, or at least a lot of yarn shops. So the next thing I finished was, I feel like I've been talking forever and we're still on finishes. We haven't even got to whips. So Deanna at Darling and Whimsy Designs, she created this pattern for the Stitchathon that's happening through the month of September and October. And it's this marathon for missing, murdered Indigenous women. I cannot talk today. So marathon for MMIW. And then there's a second hashtag, marathon for, ooh, I might mess this up, MMIG2P, maybe? I'll have to check. But it's just a more inclusive hashtag. Instead of just missing, murdered Indigenous women, that includes missing, murdered Indigenous girls and two-spirit persons. So we're using both hashtags and stitching 100 hours through the month of September and October. People are doing it in different ways. I'm committing 100 hours to one project, which I will show you shortly. Other people are rotating and doing different projects, but still doing the 100 hours. Anyway, I will show you my progress on that in a minute. But Deanna did this pattern, Some Good, and this is a black and white copy, sorry. It's a quote from Lord of the Rings, and she is donating the proceeds. So 100% of the proceeds will directly support the Coalition to Stop Violence Against Native Women, whose mission is to stop violence against Native women and children by advocating for social change in our communities. So of course I had to buy the pattern because I love Deanna, I love the cause, and I love Lord of the Rings. So that was like an easy yes, please. And it was a nice fast stitch. It's charted with 2 dinky dyes, like a green and a brown. I didn't have those, so I just grabbed something from Stash. And here is my finish. The fabric is also like a random fabric from Stash. I have no idea what it is, honestly. I think it's a 32 count, but I'm not even sure on that. So here's, I just made a little pillow finish, a simple like muslin on the back. And then I used more of that silk sari ribbon, which again, I just took 2 strands and I twisted it and then tacked it down. And I just absolutely love the way it looks. So very happy with this finish. There is my final fully finished object. I have one more little finish to show you, but it's not fully finished. So that's all my fully finished stuff. And then finished but not fully finished, another super fast little tiny stitch. This is Moonrise Snail by the Black Needle Society, and it is teeny tiny. It's 43 by 43, a little bitty thing. And I had this as a kit, so this is 18 count Ada from Picture This Plus and the color French Lilac and the called for floss. And here is my little finish, but I have not fully finished this yet. But it's still a finish. So, all right, we could just end the video now. But no, I have a lot more stuff to show you. So no, we're not. Okay, so what did I work on that I didn't finish? Well, a lot of things. So the first thing is the AntiForce Screw, which I told you in the last video I was going to be starting for my 100 hours, but I hadn't actually started it yet. So now you will see what I believe I'm at 20, I think I'm at 27 hours. So you will see what 27 hours of progress on this looks like. So it's Rosewood Manor AntiForce Screw. I am just setting a timer on my phone for 1 hour. And when it goes off, I stop and I take a picture and then I set the timer again. I'm stitching this on 40 count mallow linen, and I'm using the called for DMCs, and it calls for a lot of DMCs. Here is the list of DMCs. So that's 2 whole columns of DMC. It's like, I think I counted, oh, in a 3rd column. I think I counted and it was like 95, maybe 95 colors. It's a lot. It's a lot of DMC. And what I'm really happy about is it's actually looking brighter in person than what the picture, you know, makes it seem like it will. So that's really exciting. So here is, I believe, like I said, 27 hours, somewhere around there, 26, 27, 28, somewhere in that ballpark. Here is my progress. So it's a lot of starting and stopping. Like you do maybe 20 stitches of a color and then you have to switch out. So it can be a little bit slow going in that way. But then you get all these little finishes with the little trees and critters. So it's still like, it moves fast, but it's also a little bit, can be a little slow because of the starting and stopping. But I am about 1/4 done. So I do believe with 100 hours, I could potentially finish this pattern. So like I said in my last video, the challenge for me is not stitching 100 hours in 2 months. That's not challenging. I do that anyway. What is challenging for me is to stay with one project for 100 hours. That is hard. So far, everything's okay, but I think it was last night, I was texting with my friend Amy, and I was like, I don't really feel like working on this tonight. And she's like, just sit down and do an hour. And if you still don't feel like it, like, then stop. And I'm like, I know, you're right. I'm going to do it. But, I was just finally starting to like feel a little bit of like the burnout, but, once I got going, it was fine. So I don't hate it. It's good. I just have never stitched 2 months consecutively on one thing. I just haven't done that. But I've also been able to take breaks. Basically, if I do about 2 hours a day, I'll hit my 100-hour goal. But with like, we went camping like 2 weekends in September, and I wasn't going to take this big project with 95 threads where I have to stare at a chart really intensely. So like I've taken breaks where I take 2 or 3 days off. So I think that does also help with like the burnout feeling. So I definitely think I'm going to hit my 100 hours. And I'm going to stick with it. Like no matter how tired I get, I'm going to stick with it. And one last thing, I did rechart the quote that goes in the middle. The original quote is about like the tree of life, Adam and Eve. I don't do religious stuff, so I wasn't ever going to use that. I had charted a whole quote. I told this story in my last video. I'm not going into it again. That wasn't going to work out. So now I have charted another quote, and I finished it yesterday. I'm happy with it. I'll show you next time. Wow. Like, oh, that's like 27 hours. That's a lot of hours on something. If you would like to support the fundraiser, which it's not just me, there's several people like in the cross stitch community who are doing this marathon. But I will link it below if you want to go, and you can donate to me or to the group, or like just donate if you are moved to do so. And to those of you who have donated already, thank you so much. Sincerely, thank you. The fundraiser, the marathon, is organized by a few different people, but primarily by Alicia, who is Resist Stitch on Instagram. And they are also, she's hosting Zooms with, I believe it's her, Michelle, Bendy Stitchy, Erin, 2 Martini Stitcher, and Rachel at Rachel Ray, I think, are the 4 hosts. And if you donate and then like send your proof of donation, then you can get into the Zooms, like the private Zooms, which I don't know when the next one's going to be, but I'm going to try to make it if I can. I've been out of town like during the last 2, but I really want to get to one. So I might see you there at the Zoom if you join in. So, okay, what else did I work on? Okay, so I worked on Modern Folk Embroidery, Fruits of Plenty. I am running a little bit behind still on this one because it's so much stitching and I've been so focused on AntiForce Screw. Here's the overall piece. We're getting, it's split into 12. We're getting 1 section a month, but it's not a mystery. We know what it's going to look like. So I am on August. I'm still on August, and my goal, I do want to catch this up and I do want to finish this year, but my short-term goal is that I do not fall more than 2 behind. Like I can be stitching the month previous. I just don't want to be 2 months back. So it's September. I'm stitching August. That's fine, but I have to finish August by October 1st. Then in October, I can work on September, but I can't still be working on August. Like if that makes sense, because I have to get caught up. So I have to get caught up. So I am still on August. I'm close. I'm close to being done on August. And I guess I better get moving because what is today? I'm trying to see. It's the 26th. So I have until Thursday to get August done so that I'm not 2 months behind. I'm not going to take this out this time. I will next time. You guys have seen this all through the year. I was doing really good at actually staying caught up, but I did start to lag a little bit. But yeah, I'm plugging away. I'm almost done with August. And then of course I still have September, and then October is going to be down here, and then we're almost done. Home stretch. It's beautiful. I love it. Jacob can do no wrong. Jacob is the designer for Modern Folk Embroidery, and if you didn't know, he has a floss tube, and it's excellent. And go watch his last floss tube, but make sure you watch all the way to the end. because he covers Enya from, he covers the song that Enya did for Lord of the Rings, like the song that rolls during the credits in the Fellowship of the Ring. He did a cover of it, and it's like, he's got a beautiful voice. I mean, Enya is like the ultimate, like, is there a more beautiful voice than Enya? But I mean, he's up there with, he's not quite Enya. I'm sorry, Jacob, I love you very much. You're not quite Enya, but it's very good. So watch his last video, but make sure you watch like the last couple minutes. Okay, that was a weird tangent. I didn't know I was going on. So I've also been working on the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery Cozy Cafe Stitch Along, and they actually just came out with the new part. So this isn't the most current look. They just released this one too. It's like a spiced apple cider. But these are not like, these aren't big sections. This is a very easy stitch along to keep up with. I just had to pause it for a couple of months, and then I just haven't quite caught up yet, but I'm getting there. And I stitched 2021 on this, so I'm in it now. I gotta finish this, because I put the date on there, 2021. This is a 20 count Ada in gray petty point, and I'm stitching it with the called for DMC. So I need to do the coffee over here, and then just Friday this other section came out. So I'm only really 1 month behind. Really. Okay, I stitched on Witchy Stitcher Cryptid Stitch Along. I am behind on this one now. These are actually like really, they're small parts, but she's releasing one a week, which that's tough, but they are small. But she's actually doing something really cool, and she's taking the last week of the month off so we can catch up, which brilliant. So she's released 3 parts for September, but she's not releasing a part for the last week of September. So you get like a little catch-up time. So I'm going to stitch the frame like as I go, but I've got some of the frame done. And then here's what the frame looks like. So I've got some of that done. And then I've got the first Cryptid done, but there are now 3 that have been released. This is a Color and Cotton 40 count from the Fabric of the Month Club. I don't know if I have the name of it. Oh, it's called Spiced Honey. It's beautiful. This is beautiful deep gold. And I'm using the called for DMCs. Actually, that's not true. For the black, I am trying out the Anchor Black for the first time. It's fine. It's good. I don't have any complaints. I do think the coverage is very slightly thicker than 310. So I do understand why people suggest Anchor Black. I don't think I would need to go out of my way like to find it. My Michaels started carrying it, and I was like, cool, let me give it a go. So I like it. It's good, but DMC 310 is fine too. Okay, and then this is my last one? Yeah, my last work in progress. So my friend Victor, Flawed Sir on Instagram, he does not floss tube, but I wish he would, because I think he would be hysterical. I'm sure he would be hysterical. Anyway, Victor, Flawed Sir, he is really too good to me. Like it's too much. Like I tell him, it's too much. I feel like David Rose in Schitt's Creek. It's too much. So Victor sent me like the most epic present for his birthday. Not my birthday, for his birthday. And then he sent me another totally epic present, which I'm not even going to talk about. But anyway, one of the things he sent me was this Barbara Anna kit from Nitka, Moscow. So it's a kit that's exclusive to Nitka. And it's called the 4 Seasons. And it's 4 sweet little seasonal ladies. And we started it on his birthday. And we started on summer, which is this one. Because his birthday, it was still summer in August. They're charted as like all 4 in a row, and the kit includes a long piece of linen, and I'm going to stitch them that way, all 4 in a row. So I started on summer, didn't get that far, put her away, and then I was like, hey, like for the first day of fall on September 20th, like we should get this out and start the fall, the autumn one, which is this one. So that's what we did. I'm going to change, I forgot to say, I'm going to change the skin tones on these ladies because they're all 4 charted like the same color. So I just want to like switch it up and get a little bit more like interesting diversity in there. So I will be changing the skin tones, but for the autumn one, she's got my coloring, so I actually wanted to keep her the same. So I am doing her like exactly as charted. And here is how far I got. So, this was the summer lady. I'm not even gonna like undo the Q-snap to show you. It's not that exciting. I just got like a lot of the floral border done on her. But for the autumn lady, I felt like I was actually getting into more of the fun stuff like right away. So she does have this big old skirt down here. It is big, but she's stitching up really fast. This was 2 evenings of stitching. And I might keep her out and see if I can finish her, like in this season, and then be ready for winter. So, okay, that's all the stitching. Is that not enough? Like, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I've been talking forever. So what did I buy or receive? Like a lot of things. Okay, there was a lot of things. Let me show you a few of them. Okay, so the little stitcher on Etsy had a sale. I think it was 20% off maybe. So I grabbed a couple things that I've been wanting. I've wanted this one forever. I've put it off because her dress, I know her dress is going to be a beast to stitch. But she's called Victorian Witch and she's so cute. But look at that dress. Yeah, it's going to take a minute. And then I got the moon phases, which I have also wanted forever. And every time Michelle Cozy Egg shows this on her Flosstube, because she's been stitching on this for a long time. And every time she shows it, I'm like, oh, I need to go get that and stitch that. And she's doing hers on like a dark, deep purple. It looks so good. So I got those. And then I just threw this one in my cart because it was cute and it looks like it would be like a fast finish for like the season. And it's called Miss Jackie Lantern. Cute. Oh. Will I actually like stitch it and finish it this season? No. No. Okay, so then I got D's 20 Stitches. D is on Instagram as D's 20 Stitches. And D is on Flosstube as D's 20 Stitches, I think. Maybe it's just D's 20. Anyway, they're on both. And I think they're on like their 3rd video, maybe. So Dee has been teaming up with an artist called Uncanny Kari. So Kari creates the art and then Dee takes the art and makes it into a cross stitch. And this was their latest collaboration called Hex Hotel. And I love this. I love it. And maybe I'm just being optimistic, but I don't think it's that much stitching. I don't think so. Let me show you what I kitted up for this. So it only calls for a couple colors. I think it calls for like white, black, a green, and a purple. And so I've got this fabric, which was a Fortnite Fabrics. I think it's a Jobelin that Victor sent me. And then I've got like just a black and a white. I might try to do like a glow in the dark white for that. And then I had these limited editions from Hand Dyed by Rolanda last Halloween. So they don't have a name, but I got these two colors. I think I'm going to use those. That's a darker purple than what's on here, but I think it's going to work. So I've got that kitted up. I need to get that started at some point. When, I don't know. Rocio at Kokohama Stitchery, she made me do this. I've had this saved in my wish list on 123 Stitch for forever, and I always like almost buy it, and then I'm like, no, maybe next time. And my friend Amy, Gable Stitcher, also is always saying she wants to buy this. And then we never do. But Rocio actually started it. So it's a kit from, is it Artisy or RTO? RTO. So it's a kit from RTO, and it's called the Red Mermaid. It's super confetti heavy. It's going to be super obnoxious to stitch, but I think she's so pretty. So she came with like this really gnarly 14 count navy Ada. And I mean, so like this is, she stitched on navy. So like you don't stitch any of this. And then most of this is like half stitches. So you do need like a navy fabric for her. But it was like that super crunchy, like horrible Ada that you get sometimes, but it wasn't even like the thick, the really thick, stiff, like hefty Ada. It was very thin. It was still really stiff and starched and crunchy, but it felt very thin. And I was like, I am not stitching on that. There is no way. But I found this piece of 28 count Monaco that I had dyed for another project that I decided I'm not going to do. So I think this will be perfect. It's not quite as dark maybe as what she came with, but I still think it'll work. It'll work. I don't know if I'm going to start her anytime soon, but like I needed her. So then my friend Allison at It's Charm School on Etsy, she had these limited edition coffins, and I am sorry because you cannot even get these anymore. Like they sold out. But she wanted to send me one to like help like show it off for when she sold them. And then she was like, well, they sold out, but I'm still going to send you one. So, which is so nice of her because she's the best. She spoils me. I purchase a lot of needle minders from her, but then she like just throws in like extras or like sends me stuff. She sends me stuff to try too, like her cauldron ort catcher and her beading. Oh, I don't know if it has a special name, but she has like a really nifty little thing to help you with your beading. But when they're prototypes, she'll send them to me so I can give her like feedback on how they work, or like if she should change anything or if anything's not working out. So sometimes I kind of like test out products for her. So sometimes she just sends me nice things. But she sent me one of her limited edition coffins. So these are like these were hand constructed. And like I said, they did sell out, so they are not available anymore. But I'm still going to show it to you. So it came with this thread keep with the tombstone. And this tail tucker. So this is another like handy little contraption. She has these on her shop, on her Etsy shop. I think it's just called a tail tucker, and she has all different like cute little things for the top of these. But these are very handy if you play thread chicken like I do. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. It opens up. So it's about the size and like diameter of a needle, maybe even a little thinner. So you on the back of your project, like if you have a tail that you need to tuck under, but it's a little too short to like get your needle on it and tuck it under, you can take this tail tucker and you thread it under, and then you open it. It's hard. This is hard to do. She actually has a better like video that shows you how these work, like on her Instagram. But anyway, you thread it under, and then you open it up, and you put your little raggedy piece of floss that's left, right? Because you just have like this teeny little piece of floss. You put it in there. You put it through. It closes, and you drag it right out. I don't know if I explained that very well, but it works, and it comes in very, very handy when you have that tiny little tail because you didn't want to get a new piece of thread and you were just trying to get that last like 1 or 2 stitches out of it. This is life-changing for those. And then it came with a needle minder, but I don't have it. It was a Plague Doctor needle minder. There's a story there, but don't worry about it. So she sent me these other needle minders. She has the cutest, like the cutest spooky Halloween witchy needle minders right now. I will, you know what, I'm going to try to put some up, like just so you can see like a little bit of her selection. So if you go to her Etsy shop, like you can see more, but she has the cutest stuff right now. So she sent me this ghost drinking boba tea. And I apologize. I have no idea if that's in focus or not. I can't tell from here. We'll hope so. And then she sent me this little witch. I think she's on her phone. Look how little. She's teeny. She's teeny tiny. I actually love these little ones for my little projects. Like when I was working on this little snail, I love her needle minders. They're light. Like they feel lighter to me than other needle minders sometimes. And then these little ones, like these are just perfect lightweight needle minders for those little projects. So I love her stuff. And she always sends like fun goodies, like stickers and stuff like that. So what else did I get? Sorry, we're almost done. And there's a reward for anyone who's sticking around. I got a couple Etsy patterns. So I did print these in black and white. So apologies. But this one is called Stitching Spell. I don't know who the designer is Stitching Spell. But I think that, is the pattern called Stitching Spell or is it called something else? I don't know. It's a Stitching Spell on Etsy. And I just love this. It's got like all sorts of fun little spooky stuff. Lots of skulls. I don't know if I'm going to start it anytime soon, but I needed it. And then this one, oh my gosh. Okay, so it's Christmas Vacation by Ink and Type Company on Etsy. And I actually had this pattern favorited, but hadn't been moved to purchase it. But then somebody on Instagram stitched this, but they did it on a black chalkboard fabric and they used like a white chalkboard floss. So kind of like the inverse of what you're seeing right now. And it looked so good. And so I did have to buy this so I could do that. And then I don't even know where I found this. Like I think I just stumbled across it. I think I was just looking at like witchy patterns and this just came up. And this is from Witch's Garden Crafts on Etsy. And it's called FAFO. And again, I printed it in black and white. I think it started like this is black and then this black work is purple, I think. It says fuck around and find out. And she has the option where if you don't feel like doing all of this black work, which is quite intense, you can just do the middle. And it would probably be a pretty fast stitch. Okay. I have a giveaway. I have a reward for anyone who's made it this far, who is interested. So, Fat Quarter Shop. Fat Quarter Shop periodically sends me their like new stuff. So, fatquartershop.com has their own design like label, and it's called It's So Emma, and they do cross stitch patterns, quilt patterns, notions, like just they're super creative. They're always doing something interesting. But they sent me they do something called Stitch Quarterly, which is 4 times a year, seasonal. They release or they send a goodie bag basically of a pattern, floss, fabric, a project bag, and then like a couple little notions. So they sent me like the fall autumn Stitch Quarterly, and I want to give it to one of you. So you're going to get like the whole thing. Like what if you were a member of Stitch Quarterly, like what would arrive? But I'm going to show you what it is. It's not going to be a surprise. Everybody who's in Stitch Quarterly like should have gotten it by now, but if you didn't and you want to be surprised, just look away right now. So it comes with this mesh project bag. And then here is the pattern. It's called Autumn Spice. It's really cute. And it's little, like their patterns are usually pretty quick stitches. It comes with all of the DMC that you need to stitch this, which, is that not the most gorgeous palette? And then it comes with the fabric, which is actually like a super, it kind of looks white when you first look at it, but it's actually a pale gray and white gingham Aida. It's a 14 count Aida. So I don't know if you can see that, but it is like a very subtle gingham pattern. It's hard to see on here too, but it is stitched on this very pale gingham check. So it comes with all of that. And then it comes with a needle minder, which is a cute little acorn, Autumn Spice. It comes with a John James needle. It's stuck to the needle minder. And then it came with these thimble pads. So that's, if you were a member of Stitch Quarterly, that's what you would have received for your fall shipment. And like I said, it's seasonal. So they'll do like a winter pattern, a spring, a summer, and a fall. So if anybody would like to win this bag with all the goodies, just tell me something in the comments with the word fall. Just whatever. Just mention, I mean, if you really don't feel like trying to come up with something creative, like you can just write fall. That's fine too. But tell me something about fall, which is my favorite time of year for sure. Okay, I think that's it. That's all of the haul. Is that enough? I think it's enough. Okay, so that's all the stitching stuff. So I'm going to talk about books now. And if you're not interested in staying for book talk, that's totally cool. You can leave now and you won't miss anything. But let's talk about books because I have been reading. So it never fails. Like fall is like my reading time. Like I like to read I like to read all the time, all year round, but in the fall, I really read a lot. So I have been reading a lot, and I'm not even going to tell you about all of the books I've read. I'm going to tell you about 6 of them, but not all of them. So I have started a reread of Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is just a nice addition that I have. I'm actually not reading from this. I could. It's all 3 books like bound in one. with like this weird faux leather. I think this came from Barnes and Noble like several years ago. I found it at a thrift store. I didn't pay whatever. But I read The Fellowship of the Ring. All that to say. I felt like I was due for a reread. This is, I've said this before, this is my all-time favorite. I guess it would be a series. They were originally written as to be one novel, but obviously they've been broken up into 3. So I guess like when someone asks like what's my favorite book, I say Lord of the Rings, to encompass all 3. But anyway, I read The Fellowship of the Ring. I was due. I think it had been like 5 or 6 years since I had read it last. I've read it at least 5 or 6 times in my life, but it was time. It was feeling like it was time for a reread. So I did that, and then I still need to read The Two Towers and then Return of the King. I also, while rereading Fellowship of the Ring, watched the movie and then watched the extended director's cut of the movie, which is like an extra hour long. I watched both of them because I can't get enough. I can't get enough. And when I read The Two Towers, I'm going to do the same thing. I think I'm going to watch the regular version and the extended version. If you don't own the DVDs of the extended version, I don't know, they're probably on Blu-ray too, but I have them on DVD. HBO Max has the extended editions up on there for streaming. So if you have that service, you can watch the regular versions or the extended versions on HBO Max. So I'm not going to do like a whole summary. If you haven't been living under a rock for the last 20 years, you probably know a little bit about what Lord of the Rings is about. But it is an epic fantasy, the OG fantasy, not the first fantasy novel ever written, no, but it's kind of the, what's the word? You know, it's the epitome of a high epic fantasy novel. And it's just so good. It's so good. And what I like about rereading the 3 books is that I pick up more stuff every time, because there is a lot packed in there, and there's a lot of like elven folklore, which the movies of course just kind of had to cut out. But every time I read it, I just like get a little bit more like familiar with all the names and the places, and just learn a little bit more. I can get really, really, really dorky about it, but if you haven't read it, now is the time. And if you're intimidated by sitting and reading it, I would suggest the audiobook. I haven't listened myself yet, but Andy Serkis, who voiced Gollum in the movies, has just released on Audible his reading of the novels. It just came out like a week ago, I think. So when my next credit comes up, I'm gonna get those. So there's that. And then I read Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. This is a young adult fantasy novel. It's really, I would almost call it like a new adult, maybe. It's shelved with young adult, but it's a little bit, maybe a little older. Whatever. So Leigh Bardugo has written this whole series in the Grishaverse. So started with the Shadow and Bone trilogy, which Netflix just made into a show. And then after she wrote the Shadow and Bone trilogy, she wrote the Six of Crows duology. And then after that, she wrote the King of Scars duology. So this is book 2 in the King of Scars duology. So this is Nikolai's story after the events of Shadow and Bone. If you watch the Netflix Shadow and Bone series, which you should because it's really good, you haven't met Nikolai yet. He's coming in season 2. So I hope that's not a spoiler. I don't think it's a spoiler. There's a character coming. His name is Nikolai. He features prominently enough in book 2 and 3 that he had his own duology after. So King of Scars was the first. in this world. The first in this duology, the first book. And I had mixed feelings about King of Scars. It was not well received by fans of the world. A lot of people did not like it. A lot of people couldn't finish it, or they finished it but didn't like it, like reluctantly, you know, finished it. A lot of people said they weren't even going to bother reading the second book. It just, it had a different pacing than the trilogy, and the trilogy reads like young adult. It feels young. It's a young adult fantasy. The King of Scars duology, King of Scars and Rule of Wolves, like I said, feels more like a new adult. They are older. They're 19, 20, somewhere in that range. And the writing is just more mature. And so maybe that was some of the problem. King of Scars started really, really slow. It took until at least the 50% mark for things to finally start happening. I reread King of Scars recently, like a month or two ago. Maybe it was in May, not that long ago. I reread it and had the same thought of like, it just starts off so slow. So I think a lot of readers just were like, okay, I'm out. Like, it takes too long to get going. The writing is beautiful. Leigh Bardugo is an incredible writer. The writing is very lovely, but the plot just is really stagnant. And then after the 50% mark, it really does start to really take off. And it ends on this super wild cliffhanger that just like jaw on the floor. So I was really excited for Rule of Wolves because I needed to know what happened next. So I actually really enjoyed Rule of Wolves more than King of Scars for sure. So if you're into this series, if you're into this world, I feel like if you've gotten to King of Scars, like you're into it because you read the trilogy, you read the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and then you had to read the Six of Crows duology. So you've now read 5 books in this world. So I feel like you're committed at that point. So I would say, like, if you're struggling with King of Scars, like, tough it out. And Rule of Wolves was definitely better paced. Much more exciting, like, from the jump. My only criticism is this is a duology about Nikolai, but I really don't think it is. At the end of the day, like, I feel like this was actually a duology about Zoya. So I don't know. I feel like we were a little bit like bait and switched. I love Zoya's character arc and her redemption. So I didn't mind, but I do think, you know, especially in this book, Nikolai wasn't in this book all that much. He was there, but he was very much on the sidelines. In King of Scars, he was a little bit more prominent, but in Rule of Wolves, he wasn't doing a whole lot of anything. So I do think that's an interesting, like, if you're just here for Nikolai, you might be a little disappointed. But I'm very happy with the way this series wrapped up. I was satisfied. She left it slightly open-ended where, like, she could keep going, but it felt like a conclusion. It felt like we could just be done. But it also felt like if in 5 years, like, she's really moved to, like, revisit this world, like, she can do it. She left, like, a little bit of that open, but not to the point where you feel, like, dissatisfied. It was a natural, like, here's the conclusion, and now these characters are going into the next chapter of their lives, which she can explore or not, you know. So I think I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. It was good. I continued my reread of the Outlander series. I read An Echo in the Bone. So I just have one more left. In October, I need to read Written in My Own Heart's Blood. And then I will be all caught up for the new book that comes out in November. I think it's like November 23rd or somewhere around there. The new book is Go Tell the Bees I'm Home. So, An Echo in the Bone. You know, these books are big mamma jammas. They're all about 800 to 1,000 pages long. This one was 814 pages. And they are dense. We're not talking, like, we're not talking about like an easy breezy 814 pages. Like, these pages are dense. They are jam-packed. These books take a long time to read. I looked at the audiobooks on Audible. They're all like 26 hours long, something like that. Like, they are long books, but I did go ahead and do the audiobook for this one, because I have already read these, so I know this story, and listening to the audiobook allows me to stitch at the same time. And I listened to the audiobook sped up, so instead of 26 hours, it takes me about 13 hours. So there's still like quite a commitment, but I definitely have been able to read these faster with the audiobook. And the Audible audiobooks are really good. The woman who does the audiobooks does a really great job. You know, she has to do a lot of voices. She has to do a lot of accents. She has to do like Scottish Highlander. She has to do English. She has to do American Boston. Her Boston accent is a little dicey. But she has to do a lot of voices, male and female voices. Children, she has to do a lot of children's voices, but she does a really good job where they're very like distinct. Like, you definitely know which character it is, and like you can recognize that. Anyway, these books, I love these books. If you love history, these are great. These are like deep dives into history. So the series starts with Outlander. And by the way, the TV show is also excellent and very faithful to the books. They do change little things here and there, but the overall vibe, like, very faithful to the books. But Outlander starts in Scotland during the Jacobite uprising. We then move into France in book 2. In book 3, we go to the West Indies, like the New World. And then in book 4, we're on the American colonies. And then it goes from there. So in this book, we are in like the Revolutionary War. I think this book maybe starts in 1777, somewhere around there. And Claire and Jamie are trying to navigate like when they are going to like jump in and throw their lot in with the Americans for the revolution. Because if you know a little bit about Outlander, I hope this isn't a spoiler, Claire has traveled from the future. Like, she is now in the past, but she came from the future. So she knows how things are going to end. She knows the Americans are going to win. But when Claire and Jamie arrive in the colonies, like 10 years prior, they're under British rule and they are subjects of the British crown. So they have to navigate, like, the book before this is mostly them navigating like British officers, American dissenters, like, when do they join the revolution? Because they want to be on the winning side of history and because they do believe in the cause. But when do they're just trying to figure all that out. So in this book, we finally actually like get into the war. We get into the battles. We see a few like notable historical battles. We meet a few notable historical figures like Benedict Arnold. I believe in the next book, George Washington makes a cameo. But yeah, if you're a history nerd, like, they're great books because you get to like live that history and hear about like that history without like reading like a dry like text about it. So I love the Outlander series, and these books, they're really heavy. They are big, heavy heavy mamma jammas. Okay, so then I read the cutest book. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I watch a couple people on BookTube. Not a lot. I just watch a couple. And one of the ones I like to watch, she mostly reads like fantasy, but she started to fall into like the contemporary romance. And I kind of fell into it with her. And now I'm like obsessed and I'm buying like all the contemporary romance. I have a problem, but she really liked this series, so I had to check it out. So the first book is called Well Met by Jen DeLuca. There's a second book out called Well Matched, I believe. Up there. No, that's a lie. The second book is called Well Played. And then the third book is called Well Matched. And that book comes out on October 5th, I believe. So it's coming out very soon. So this book is set in, basically like it's a small town with like their own like Renaissance festival or Renaissance fair. I think it might depend on what part of the country you're at, like what it's called. There are, you know, every state does like a Renaissance fair or a Renaissance festival. There are some big ones, but then there are like, I guess, some small local ones. So this is like a small town operation. It's not like the big state, you know, big production, but it's like a cute little like local small town Renaissance fair. And the main character, Emily, is in town to help take care of her sister. Her sister's been in like a horrible car accident and she's doing a lot of physical therapy and she's like needs some help with her teenage daughter. So Emily comes like to her sister's house to help her in her recovery and to like help take care of her daughter. And her daughter is participating in the Renaissance fair and Emily ends up like having to go as a chaperone. And that's how she ends up like kind of reluctantly in the Renaissance fair cast. She's part of the cast. And the love interest, Simon, is the one who's actually like running the whole production. So it's not an enemies to lovers trope, but they get off like on the wrong foot. And so there is a dislike. They're not enemies. And we're only getting Emily's side, so we don't know how Simon feels. But Emily does not like him, and she thinks that he really, really does not like her. So she thinks it's a mutual, like, we are not clicking. Turns out Simon really likes her. So it was interesting, actually, like one of the things I thought was really interesting about this book was kind of exploring like how our insecurities, how we project onto people. So Simon doesn't actually do anything like overt to like indicate he doesn't like her, but she, like, her own insecurities, she like kind of warps it a little bit to where she's like, oh, he's judging me. That's what that's about. And he's like, whoa, wait, no. So at one point I was like, wait, is he gaslighting her? And then like, I kept reading and it was like, no, he's not. Like, she's really just misinterpreting things. Anyway, so I thought that was like kind of an interesting exploration about, you know, she had been through a really horrible breakup. Her self-esteem was really suffering, and how that affected her relationships with other people. But anyway, really cute, really easy to read, really fun. I can't wait to read the next one. I really, really enjoyed this, and I'm sure I'm going to pick up the third one like as soon as it comes out. But it was just a good time, and it was really fun to like be hanging out at a Renaissance festival, like in the book, like for the whole book, pretty much. Like, she's a tavern wench serving beer. And then it's like also like cute little small town with a bookstore with like a cafe in it. So just like really cozy. It was like a cozy fun. I feel like I'm talking like Alexis Rose right now. I've been watching a lot of Schitt's Creek again, so sorry. Anyway, it was really cute. I really, really love this. So if you are interested in contemporary romance or have been wanting to dip your toe into contemporary romance, that's a series I would definitely recommend to you. So after that, we're almost done, 2 more. After that, I read a newer book. This book just came out like maybe 2 months ago. This is a young adult fantasy. It's called The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. And this was a debut. This is her first book, and I really liked it. I didn't like love it. It wasn't 5 stars. I think I would rate it 3.5 stars. I rounded up to 4 on my Goodreads account, but it was really good. It was really good. But it was a debut, and that showed a little bit. But it was an interesting magic system going on here. So it features, you know, the main character. Her name is Clara, and she's at this school for witches. I think she's like 17 years old, somewhere around there. And what's interesting about this like world is that witches, the witches in this world are primarily like gatekeepers of climate, seasons, weather. So all of their magic is tied to like the earth. And each witch has an affinity for a season. So like the winter witches can control like snow and ice and things like that. The spring witches can make things grow. Like they're very good at botany and things like that. But they each have like an affinity for their season. But what they're primarily doing is keeping like a balance with the weather in the world, avoiding like natural disasters and things like that. But what's happened with climate change is that they've totally been stretched beyond their limits, and things are getting really, really bad. So it was interesting because we know in our own world right now, like climate change is a real issue. So it was interesting to see that like kind of tackled in this like alternate reality. But essentially Clara, the main character, she's something called an ever witch, which means her magic can tie into all 4 seasons. And that is extremely rare. There's one every like 100 years or so that turns up. So there has been a witch like her before, but it was 100 years ago. But basically she's like the chosen one in that they think that she's very powerful and she can tap into all this magic. So they believe she's like the answer to fixing the problem with like the weather and the climate in the world. But she is afraid to access her full power because in the past, people near and dear to her have been killed by her magic. Like when her magic has gotten out of control, it has targeted and killed people like her loved ones. So she's afraid to let anybody get close. She's afraid to let anybody in. And she's mostly just really afraid to actually use her magic because it's so out of control and destructive. So the book is about her learning to overcome that and learning how to use her magic. It got really frustrating because like for the entire book you're like, just do it, just do the thing. And but it makes sense why she's afraid. She doesn't want anybody to get hurt. So like the plot, I mean, it all made sense, but it was very frustrating. It's very frustrating to read like 300 pages of a character who just like won't live up to her potential. And like her teachers are frustrated with her. Her friends and her classmates are frustrated with her. Everybody's like, just use your magic. And she's like, no. So that was a little hard to read, but like I said, it did make sense for the story. There's a love story. There's a love triangle a little bit, not a full-on triangle. I know a lot of people get very leery of a love triangle, but one thing I thought that this book did really nicely is that Clara is bisexual and there is a love interest for her for both sexes. And you really don't know which one she's gonna pick until like near the end. It's very much up in the air. So I thought that was done really well. Love to see it. But that wasn't like the main focus of the story. But yeah, I mean, it was good. It was a worthy read. Not like a super, super love, but a solid, nice debut. Oh, also like beautiful. Look at this book. It's really pretty. Look at that. And really easy to read. I read it really quickly. It's also got like really pretty illustrations. So I've seen this at Target. So like, you know, if you've picked it up and been intrigued, I think it was a nice book. All right, the last thing I read was the next book in the Mercy Thompson series by Patricia Briggs. I think this might be number 8, maybe. I think she's on, there's like 10 or 11 books out. I have 3 more to read. So I think this was number 8. I've talked about this series before. I really like this series a lot. But I can't really talk about it by book 8 without like tons of spoilers. It's a paranormal urban fantasy. So Mercy is a shapeshifter. She can change into a coyote. And she has fallen in with a werewolf pack because she doesn't know anyone else like her. Like, she doesn't know any other shapeshifters, especially not shapeshifters who can turn into coyotes. So she's been kind of like adopted and raised by the werewolves. And so she's part of the werewolf pack, but she's also like an outsider because she's not a werewolf and they don't all accept her. And there's always like some power struggles with that. Which I like that kind of stuff. Like, I like that little bit of political intrigue. But she's just a really fun heroine to root for. She's a good person. Like, she's honest and she's selfless and she's brave. And I just, you know, you're just rooting for her, like, to succeed. And she's vulnerable. Like, that's also interesting. She's not like, she's got like really good, she's got talent and she's smart, but she's not like infallible. She's not like the big bad, like, I'm gonna come in and kick everybody's ass. Like, she knows her limits and she knows like most of the book, she's like, I think I'm gonna die tonight. So that's fun. But she does usually end up, you know, she comes out on top, but, she's got a vulnerability to her that I think is very interesting. These books are really fun. There is romance in these books, but they're not smutty. So that's like my only complaint, because when I'm reading like paranormal urban fantasy, there's usually some smut like in most of these series. And that's the only thing I kind of miss from these books, because they don't get like sexy. But that's okay, because they're still really good. But if you found yourself maybe turned off by all the smut in the paranormal fantasy genre, but you've been looking for something like in that genre, but maybe like you don't like all the sexy times, this would be an excellent series for you. Like, I think you would really like it. I do love this series, so I will continue on with that until I'm caught up. Okay, that's it. That's all the things. My throat's dry. I'm thirsty and I'm tired. Like always, if you made it this far, wow. I don't know why, but thank you. Thank you very much. All right, I will see you guys next time.